Hi, I'm Samantha, and I chose John Keats as my romanticism poet. Alright, the first one is La Belle Dame sans Merci. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woe begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest done. I see a lily on the brow, with anguish moist in fevered dew, and on the cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. I met a lady in the midst, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, in fragrant zone, and she looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept, and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses for. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed I woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed, on the cold hill's side. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci hath thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam with horrid mourning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hill's side. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing. I believe that in this poem, nature and passion are shown through in many ways. It also introduces us to the darker side of romanticism, with its dark, decaying, and mysterious vibe towards the end. In the first and last stanza, imagery in nature is shown with the lines, though the sedge withered from the lake, and no birds sing. The speaker's emotion is shown in each stanza. His passion is visible in stanza 8, where he says, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses for. You can tell how much the knight loves this woman and adores her. Horror and darkness are present in the 10th and 11th stanza, where his dream is spoken of. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all, as well as I saw their starved lips in the gloam with horrid mourning gaped wide. The description of these men give the feeling and notion of death, which is also sounding vaguely similar to the description of the knight in stanza 3. And my next poem I chose from John Keats is Ode to a Nightingale. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains, 1 minute past and like waters had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of the happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou loud rain dried of the trees in some melodious plot, of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been, cooled a long age in the deep-delved earth, tasting of flora in the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburst mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest stem, fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret, here where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, where but to think it is to be full of sorrow, and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pineth them beyond to narrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his cards, but on the viewless wings of Poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards. Already with thee tender is the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry phase. Here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown, through verdurous glooms in winding mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in balm darkness guess each sweet, wherewith the seasonal month endows. The grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets cover up in leaves, and mid May's eldest child. The coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eyes. Darkling I listen, for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many amused rhyme, to take into the air my cry of breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sod. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the selfsame song that I found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home she stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that oft times hath charmed magic casements opening on the foam of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell, to toll me back from thee to my soul's self. Adieu! The fancy cannot cheat so well as she famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu! That plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep? All right. Ode to a Nightingale emits romanticism through its words of nature, dreams of bliss and beauty, and even through its mention of death. Emotion and imagery is heard throughout the entire poem. This poem exudes nature in each verse. It gives the reader constant visions of the trees in the forest and the country green. In verse 1, line 1, it says, "My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains." This shows grave melancholy. You can feel the emotion and pain that he is feeling in those few 8 words. Contrasting to the imagery in the majority of the poem, verse 4, lines 39 and 40, give the image of the environment in a more peaceful way. Save what from heaven is with the breezes, blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. And in a different and even dark tone, stanzas 6 and 7 mention death. I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many amused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die. The world of the nightingale draws him. He desires this world, he shows us, and dreams of it as an escape from his reality. And he's constantly praising the bird and fears his own death. And that is all for my world literature poetry reading. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's. Bye.